I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's 4:05. We know. We had some footage processing issues, but this is your Thursday edition of News, Games, and More, where we happily cover all of the above. I'm Michael, your host, and I am here with Terry, Ryan, and Casey. So good to see you all. Welcome, welcome.
Mike, are you outside right now in San Francisco?
In San Francisco.
Is that...
It's themed. That's right. My insides match my outsides. I probably should have done something that wouldn't draw attention to our horrible dystopia, but
No, that's fine.
there you go.
Let's talk about video games and entertainment instead.
Thank
That'll
you,
do it.
Ryan. Well played. And of course, the Ubisoft Forward stream was today, and Ubisoft dropped a bunch of information on existing games we already knew about, as well as maybe technically only one game we didn't know about. I think that's accurate. But Ryan, I know you got a chance to check out the stream. What jumped out at you?
For me, I'm sort of over remasters by and large, but remakes. Yes, call me remakes. Resident Evil 2 was so good, Resident Evil 3, and I had a chance to preview Mafia Definitive Edition, the full-up remake of Mafia 1, which is out, I think, in about 2 weeks now. And that technically, it's like it super looks and feels like a new 2020 game. So when Prince of Persia shows up on the screen, I'm like, yes, Sands of Time coming back. So I am excited about it, but I'm a little bummed that A, it's for current gen, it's not for PS5 and Series X. And B, if I'm being honest, it for a remake, not a it looks more like this weird halfway point between a remake and a remaster. Like it's from the high bar for remakes set by Mafia and Resident Evil.
And even like Final Fantasy VII remake.
Greatest, but I mean, I'm really excited. I haven't played this game in like 15 years, so I am going to run it again for sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
was-
absolutely. Go ahead, Casey.
No, I was just going to say, as I was watching this, to be totally honest, it's been such a long time. I completely forgot what the original Sands of Time looked like. And as they were showing this footage at first, I mean, I also have to say, like, my resolution wasn't the best as I was watching this, to be totally honest. But I was kind of thinking, when are they going to show the remake version? And then I was like, very quickly, it's like, oh, that doesn't actually look like what the prince looked like in the original. And yeah, no, I completely agree with you. It is not up to today's remake standards, I don't think. The
character models
environments
are bad. Let's just be
the
honest.
environments looked good. The character models, not so much.
And I saw some people out there optimistically, which I appreciate, saying, "Hey, it said alpha footage, but let's be real. This thing's out in 4 months, so I can't imagine that there's going to be a ton of touch-ups." So yeah, I mean, I know I'm sitting here now hating on the visuals, but I actually am still legitimately happy that this is being made and this is being brought back, because I really do want to play it again.
Yes,
I do. Yeah,
I
I have
agree.
very fond memories. I will play it again. I'm more with Ryan. It was upgraded enough that I could tell it wasn't literally the same game. And at least you saw in the showcase that they put on the suits, they put the dots on their faces, they got the actors to do mocap. So there was at least some work on new animations or new body physics or something. But yeah, it's more of a trip down to, down memory lane than it is anything else. Although I feel like gamers today don't even realize how low-key fundamental Prince of Persia is. That is not, it goes back to the black and white side scroller. But anyway,
Yeah, I was going to say
yeah.
the skepticism seems to be like the overriding consensus I'm seeing online too. Like even just taking a peek in our article about it on IGN, I saw a lot of the same sentiments that you guys were all saying, where people were saying like, was this made on the PS3 and 360 model, or that it did feel more like a remaster than a remake. I'm curious, like, do you guys feel like it's like, is the potential ill will or like snarky response worth relaunching something and calling it a remaster like this, do you think? Or do you think that ultimately they'll get a new audience to be aware of Prince of Persia and this classic game, and that it's worth potentially the graphics not being up to the high bar of some of the previous remasters?
And let's keep in mind this franchise survived the Jake Gyllenhaal movie version. So it's not like they can't take a hit and come back like so much sand going up in an hourglass. But But I do think it's the latter. I think there are a lot of shy gamers, and by that I mean gamers who will talk trash, but when you're bored enough, if it's cheap enough on sale or it's on Game Pass or some situation works out, you'll play the game. You just won't talk about having played it. I think gamers are more curious than we tend to like admit when we're doing like Go Team stuff. So I think it'll make its money. I do think it's like a wise strategic play, but it doesn't show the ambitious kind of revitalization, obviously, that the Resident Evils do. That was a great comparison.
I mean, I'll add too that on the Ubisoft Forward stream itself, the company Ubisoft themselves were like, "This is our first ever full-on remake," and then they showed that.
That's
so
weird
they
to put
kind of
that
set
shine
themselves up for it a little bit. Now, I just double-checked the press release while you guys were talking. It is going to be $40, so at least they're not going. I mean, Resident Evil was 60, I think, and Mafia's 40. So again, there's sort of that. You don't necessarily expect certainly a remaster or remake to be 60. At least in this case, it is a $40 game for whatever that may be worth to people. I quite frankly would rather pay $60 for a game that was as high visual fidelity as Resident Evil 2, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and go ahead, Casey.
I was just gonna say I'm with you on that, but it being $40 instead of 60 makes me feel better about it. So,
does this resonate with anyone on the Super Mario 3D All Stars front? Because I was really expecting more of a remake experience in that case too, and I don't know if I'm in the minority there, but I'll keep us on Ubisoft Forward. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, like, I think that is leaves a less sour taste in people's mouths because it's not marketed. They're not marketed as remakes or anything super special. Like, these are very slightly upgraded versions, but not really. We're just re-releasing them on the Switch, and you get all three of them.
I think you're exactly right, Casey. Like, it's funny. I was thinking about that as well because I've never pre-ordered anything as fast as I pre-ordered Super Mario 3D All-Stars when that was announced. But you're also getting multiple games for that. You're getting games. I mean, not that Prince of Persia is available on current systems, necessarily in the same way that you can't play on the Nintendo Switch these other Mario games, but I think Casey's right where it's like it's not being marketed as like this is a remake. It's more we've made some light updates and we're distributing them in a new package and you can play them on a new system that you couldn't play before, and you're getting multiple games for the price of one. So.
Well, I promise we'll get into the new games, but I also know that two folks on the panel were excited about the Scott Pilgrim game, which is what would you call that? See, I'm now paranoid because I'm realizing how important the messaging is. Is this a remake?
Re-release?
It
is a re-release.
Straight re-release of Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the game complete edition. Casey, can you speak to that? You seemed excited before the show started.
I think Terry was even more excited than I am, but
I was happy for fans.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy too. So this is a really great co-op beat 'em up. I personally played it on the 360. It was one of those games I was always just hooked up at social gatherings during the time, and it had a really great soundtrack from Anna Mineguchi, and then it was just taken off the eShop. I don't know what to call it, but it was just unavailable to purchase then for many years, and now it is finally going to be available to purchase once again, which is great. Huge thumbs up. And it's weird that it just artificially was taken off of sales. I'm sure there's reasons for it, but I'm not going to get into that now. But I'm very glad that it's coming back.
It's going to be a recurring theme in the show today. It almost starts to feel weird now that we're in an all-digital era, but it's still not time for that story yet. Terry, thoughts on Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the game complete edition?
Yeah, again, like I'm just more excited because I know that this is something people have been hoping for a while, and Brian O'Malley has been chatting about it, and I think he got fans' hopes up when he mentioned that Ubisoft had reached out. I think it was like essentially a weird clerical error that it even kind of lapsed and wasn't available anymore. So I thought it was a nice surprise today that they are making it available again, and obviously easier to re-release something than remake a new game when people are so eager to be playing games and we have a lot of free time on our hands. Sure. So I was happy to see it in something that I wasn't expecting today.
on the entertainment side, do we have is the IGN audience still like supportive of Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the movie? I mean,
Well, I'm looking at the comments. Let's see. World 789 says Scott Pilgrim should be left as it was back in the day, but they're talking about the game. But we'll see if we get any movie comments. But I loved the movie. I really enjoyed it. I still really like it. It's kind of like a comfort food movie for me.
oh yeah.
Right?
It's a movie that I really enjoyed at the time. I remember being there at Comic-Con. It had such a great Comic-Con experience that year, but I did revisit it recently, and there's some stuff that just does not age well that I did not remember at all about it, which is kind of funny. But I really enjoyed Entertainment Weekly brought together the cast and Edgar Wright recently, and they did a reread of it, like with everyone kind of at home. In Zoom call format, and it was so pleasant to revisit it in that way and see that like the cast and everyone still has so much nostalgia for it. So I think there's a lot of love for it still, even if it's not like a pressing thing that everyone's clamoring for, a reunion or I don't know, sequel or something.
Ooh, I don't want a remaster of, at least not the
The
movie.
movie.
Yeah. It's weirdly, even though it's based on a comic, it feels like the most video game movie I've ever seen. But moving on, because I wanted to hit some of the new games, or at least games we had very little information on before. One that really stood out to me was Far Cry VR, because I've recently had my tipping point this year and play a lot of VR games. And to have a Far Cry VR multiplayer game featuring Vaas was extremely exciting to me. Anyone else into Far Cry 3 or Vaas?
Definitely, it is my favorite Far Cry of the modern ones. I guess. Well, I guess I did just say all of them. I mean, Far Cry 1, okay. 2, yeah. 3's my favorite, and bringing him back is totally cool. I don't need VR and multiplayer. I mean, I have played cool VR multiplayer experiences before, but yeah, I'd be eager to give it a try for sure. Because like you say, I just built a new PC. I know you were flexing on IGN Slack about your new rig, but I'm not quite at the Swaim level. But I put together a new machine as well, and yeah, I've got an Index sitting down there, which I'm looking forward to throwing some new games at. Like this will be good to try, and Medal of Honor this fall too.
Yeah, they also announced there were 3 VR games featured, not announced for the first time, but Agos, which stands for A Game of Space. I was a little hazy on the specifics on that one, and also, what was the third VR game? Oh, well, I don't recall, so I'm going to move on. There
We're live,
was also,
people.
well, we talked about Prince of Persia getting sort of a uniform reaction, and another game I noticed, at least on our stream, getting a pretty uniform reaction was Immortals Phoenix Rising, which was officially announced. We had our own hands-on preview, and even in the preview, I think, on IGN, we mentioned it is, for better or worse, heavily inspired by Breath of the Wild. And I'm just going to say, I enjoy that. Impatiently awaiting Breath of the Wild 2, and I could definitely use a game to tide me over in between. That's not all it is, but it's a third-person adventure set in a stylized world. But the plot centers around saving the Greek gods. And yeah, I thought it looked pretty promising. Anyone else have thoughts on Phoenix Rising, which used to be called Gods and Monsters?
Yeah. I still don't like the name. I still don't think it makes a ton of sense. But after seeing what we did today, I was interested when we first got that teaser at E3 last year, and I'm even more interested now. I love that you can customize your characters. I love that you can customize your loadout. I really like that there are different upgrades. I love skill trees. I like the RPG elements in this, but I also like what seems like an open world that relies on crafting. Like you saw her pick up some pomegranates and make some potions before, and it looks like the combat will be more, not that Breath of the Wild's combat wasn't interesting, but it looks like this will be more combat oriented and have a little bit more fine-tuned action than something like Breath of the Wild did. And honestly, I love Breath of the Wild, don't get me wrong, but this looks really cool. I'm very much looking forward to this, honestly.
Well, Casey,
Yeah.
if you stay tuned to IGN all September long for the rest of the month, this is going to be our IGN first game for the month. So we're going to have a lot more coverage of it, some more in-depth, a lot more gameplay, more features. Our UK team spent a ton of time with this and interviewing the developers. So look for that in the next few days coming up on IGN. Shameless plug.
Well, I was going to say, echo Casey, that I think it looks great, and I almost feel like the Breath of the Wild comparison is a little unfair, if true, because let's not forget that it's very easy to group games that look similar that may not end up being so completely one-to-one in the finished product. Like we were all calling Breath of the Wild the Skyrim Zelda before it actually came out, and I'm curious, Ryan, if you can tease any of it, like talking to our UK team, was the sentiment that the Breath of the Wild comparisons were more than skin deep, or does that seem to be emulated in their experience playing the game as well?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to dig in with them. I've been doing the 10,000-foot view planning stuff, and they've been executing it all. So yeah, they're hard at work on all that stuff right now. But I know what we have coming, and on paper there'll be some really interesting gameplay-centric features about what this game has going for it. So yeah, I'm eager to learn more. I mean, a game with a cool color palette and playing around with mythology and the old gods and stuff. It's definitely something that seems like it'd be fun and a little refreshing nowadays too. So yeah, I'm curious to give this a go. And it's out in December. Like we don't often get major games from major publishers released in December. It's sort of every now and again. In fact, we were just talking. Far Cry 3 was an early December game back in whatever year that was. But generally speaking, everything tends to be out by November. So yeah, there's another one to add to your 2020 game list here.
I did read Joe Scrabble's preview of this game. He did get a little bit of hands-on, and he did make the Breath of the Wild / Assassin's Creed Odyssey comparison, but said that the developers have done a good job at making it its very own unique thing, even though the inspiration is definitely apparent. So, yeah. Also, there are wild mounts that you can tame, but he said that wasn't all that exciting. I mean, it was just a horse. Maybe later you can tame a griffin or something. That sounds awesome.
Hey, speaking of crazy traversal modes, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Riders Republic, because the showcase did technically give us a few more details on things like Watch Dogs Legion, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, things that are highly anticipated, but very little tidbits, nothing major. But they did deploy an entirely new game, Riders Republic, which is a massively multiplayer extreme sports game featuring, as far as I could tell, all the BMX, bike, snowboarding scheme, but also hang gliding. I think there's rockets involved at some point. And it looks like they're really focusing on playing with many people at once in a big sort of fantasy extreme sports world. I have a little spiel, but did anyone have impressions of Riders Republic?
I will say real quick. Oh, go ahead, Casey.
Nope, I just said take it away.
Fair enough. I started watching the trailer for this. The very beginning of the trailer, I'm like, this is boring. What is this? But I don't know if it's 10 seconds in, 20 seconds in, whatever it is, because it's a pretty long video. And then when it's just all the players just start flying down the mountain, then I thought this looks pretty fun. I mean, it's I'm not normally a big extreme sports video game guy, but just the idea that it seemed like they've got a pretty fun tone going on with this. And if it's organized well, in a trailer, it's all, of course, made to look exactly as the developers dream it up. But as long as in the real world, if it's just a big mess of people trolling each other down the mountain on whatever bike or vehicle or apparatus they're choosing, that I can see that it going haywire. So as long as they've sort of taken that into account, I actually think this looks really fun.
Yeah, so that's actually my little observation on this, is that I feel pre-Fall Guys, I would have had no interest in this, and now Fall Guys has sort of trained me and to accept trolling in a different way in games like this. So if there is indeed a mode, and of course this was just the trailer, it didn't go into details about the various modes, but if there is a mode that is 100 BMX bikers getting knocked off course and destroying each other until only one survives, I hope there is. That sounds really fun to me. It's almost a new genre of multiplayer where chance plays such a large aspect that it takes the sting out of losing. You know that, well, everyone was just sort of running into each other. Of course I lost. You get over it quickly.
Yeah, Mario Madness in the chat says they seems like they evolved on the Steep universe, which was pretty heavy multiplayer focused.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that's
well,
a pretty fair assessment.
I'm not
Yeah,
familiar
for
with
sure.
Steep. Nice.
Once you have that game design locked in, it's like, why not keep iterating on it in fun ways?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. You can check out the entire Ubisoft Forward stream, of course, at our YouTube channel. But those were some highlights. I want to move us along now. We've talked multiple times so far about games becoming unavailable. And as I said, it just seems odd to me now that we're moving in a digital direction, that gating can seem artificial. And there's a story that speaks to that. Super Mario 3D All-Stars, this of course being the collection of Super Mario Galaxy, Sunshine, and 64, all being re-released as a single package. It is sold out at Amazon, but still available to pre-order both physically and digitally elsewhere as of the last time we checked, which was fairly recently, within the last 2 hours. The company says the physical version, however, will be available at retailers in a limited run, and they're treating the game as a special edition or a limited series, and it will be pulled from the Nintendo eShop as well after March 2021, and then it will be unavailable. So the question is just, what is the deal with this sort of artificial scarcity, especially on the digital front? Physical copies, understandably, there's a finite number. You can stop producing them at some point, and that number becomes fixed. But can anyone argue for me gating digital copies, or is there any argument from the consumer vantage point, or is it purely just capitalism run amok?
So you mean for stopping the sale of digital copies in March, not the shortage that Amazon is having?
Well,
right.
Please feel free
Or
to speak
both.
to either. I'm not sure whether, I assume that the shortage Amazon is, I guess I'm a rube. That's probably somewhat manufactured to a degree as well. Is that what you're sort of saying?
Yeah, like I mean they're two different topics, right? Like why is Amazon sold out of digital copies? I don't know. Like maybe Nintendo gave them like, here's this many codes that you are allowed to sell.
Right.
Because then that would force people to purchase the game directly from Nintendo, right? So that is a strategic move. And also I see it as a strategic move as well to put a limit on it, because that will increase kind of artificial demand in the time being. I mean, people are already scalping the physical version on eBay for more than $100, even though you can still pre-order the physical edition in some places.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not sold out yet. And I don't think, it says it's limited to March, but I don't think it's limited run, not limited edition, right? So they're going to stop producing it in March, not limit the copies that they're producing, right? But we don't have any clarity on that, because I don't think we've gotten a response from Nintendo.
I find it all very manufactured, and I think that the closest comparison I can think of and that we've seen discussed is it's like the Disney Vault. If you guys remember, before Disney Plus made the Disney Vault null and void, which I know annoyed a lot of people who were collecting those over the years, like Disney would just arbitrarily say, we're releasing Sleeping Beauty in a new format from the Disney Vault for only a limited time. And so everyone was driven to collect it, and it forced, or it didn't force, but it basically made people want to rush to purchase something because of its limited availability. And we've seen that with this game. Like, it is already the #2 bestseller on Amazon. It's had a massive amount of pre-orders that happened like so rapidly. We were able to see. And I think part of it is, yes, people are really excited about it. I'm watching this this B-roll of Super Mario 64, and I'm so excited to get this game and get to play these again. So, I said earlier in the stream, I've honestly never pre-ordered anything as quickly as I pre-ordered this game. But I personally was more inclined to buy the physical copy, knowing that the digital wouldn't be available long term, which I thought was kind of an interesting choice because that felt more like a collector's edition and something that, should anything happen to my Switch, I wouldn't, not that this would be the case, but that like I wouldn't be able to get it back since it is a digital only game. So I find the limiting of the digital copies to be, again, very manufactured, but also very a little strange. Like I can see everyone running out of the physical copies, but the idea that, oh, we're also sold out for pre-orders of the digital copy is just again feels like it's manufacturing that.
Terry used the word manufactured. I'm going to use a different word. Asinine. It's asinine. This is supposed to be part of the 35th birthday / anniversary celebration of Mario. So what better way to ruin a party than to take the toy away? Like, that's ridiculous. It's a game. It's a package. It's a collection that we've been waiting for a long time. Yes, if you're disappointed that it's not a remake or more of a remaster, totally get that. But the fact of the matter is, these one or more of these games has been pretty tough to play for quite a while. So it's great that they're coming forward to the Switch, which has obviously been such a huge success for Nintendo. It's got a huge installed base. There will be generations of gamers now, younger generations, who will play 64 certainly, and definitely Sunshine, because Sunshine's been that's actually the one I'm most looking forward to, because I'm a big fan of Sunshine. I always was, and it's been locked on the GameCube forever. But yeah, the idea that they're just gonna close up shop in an arbitrary day in March, it's asinine. It's utterly stupid. It's ridiculous. The physical part, the physical limitation on the physical copy, okay, if each copy were numbered, maybe okay, you can justify that, but
Signed by Mario.
shutting it down on digital is silly.
I do see Nintendo later releasing each of them individually, but for the bundle to have been worth purchasing, they would then need to increase the price, which, I mean, they're basically already $20 each because the collection is $60. So do you really see them selling each of these for $25 or $30 each? That seems kind of steep for...
Maybe if it's digital only, that could be a good point, that it's like you can only get them together as a bundle for this period of time, and then the only option is doing the eShop in some capacity and getting them for a cheaper amount. Like I could see that potentially, and maybe they transition to a different bundle next year that they announce, and that's like the next thing to come out of the Nintendo vault. But on the same time, it worked clearly, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've had it for all time.
Hey, I pre-ordered this. I'm part of the problem.
Yep, exactly.
And I think
we all agree with Mad Dog Tan and 316, who says, "I love Nintendo, but man, they make some of the most bizarre business decisions. Although not bizarre, very cold, calculating, logical business decisions that make a lot of sense from their point of view."
Well, I think that's funny, where it's like you look at two of the biggest games this year, and I would say that this is already one of the biggest games of this year, and will certainly shape up to be. But then it's Animal Crossing, and I feel like a lot of people are talking so much about, Nintendo, not that many new releases. Nintendo hasn't come out swinging in the same way. We've had so many games on so many other platforms, and it's a next gen year. But I think it would be very interesting. I don't know, you guys probably have a better sense than I do on this, but if it comes out at the end of the year and the most sold games are Animal Crossing and Super Mario 3D All-Stars.
Oh, it's going to crack the list. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, if Mario 64 is a best-selling game in 2020, that's good. That'll make me feel young again. I'll be revived. I have a feeling we're going to get a lot of younger people playing Mario 64 for the first time and not seeing the big deal. Because my dad showed me black and white movies that were foundational to cinema, and I was like, what's the big deal? We get spoiled as time advances, is my point.
There are going to be people complaining about the camera,
the controls, unless they repair it. They will be
and we'll say, but at least you didn't have to play it on the N64 controller.
That's right. Speaking of spoiling ourselves as time moves forward, let's spoil the audience with another news story. Hey, why not? I actually just wanted to talk briefly about and sort of pull the room about Tenet is out in the United States where we live. I'm guessing none
Kind
of
of.
us are gonna. Yeah, it's in limited release in particular states, and IGN's own Bob Marshall wrote a really interesting piece about how to safely see Tenet, in which they paid $150. They drove to Connecticut and paid $150 for two people to see it, but you could seat up to 20 people there. So I basically just want to ask about is anyone even considering seeing Tenet? Let's go around the horn and do that real first, clockwise. Ryan?
Is Batman in it?
I don't know because I haven't seen Tenet. It involves time travel, so possibly.
It's Christopher
Stars
Nolan.
Robert
If
Pattinson.
Batman's in it, then maybe. But
Okay.
no, it's no. I'm not like I respect Nolan as a filmmaker and appreciate his work. But there's I'm not just put it. Price it. Do it. Price it like a Nintendo thing. Make it $50 on digital. If you're that like, and I know his reason, he's a believer in cinema and all that, and the theater experience, but it's like, dude, that's not what the real world is right now. Not everybody is comfortable or willing, or in some cities and towns even able to go to the movies. So it's like, just swallow your pride a little bit. Put the film out there for people to see in a way that's safe and accessible for them to see it.
Ooh, I'm right on the line, man. It's tough. I'm Casey. Thoughts
Well,
on this? Yeah.
I got thoughts, but I want to hear from Casey.
I don't have many thoughts. I'm not going to go see it.
You're
I
not
never
gonna
went.
go. Okay.
I never went to the movies much when it was totally fine and normal. So I don't. Yeah, it's not going to happen for me. Terry, what do you think?
Yeah, I want to hear
So
from
I'm not
Terry, our
gonna
entertainment czar. Go.
I'm not going to see it because number one, I can't. I live in California, and theaters aren't open here. And I'm also not going to see it because one thing that really, really bothers me about the way Nolan chose to allow Warner Brothers to release this is, yes, I understand, like, there is a real risk of losing theaters, of AMC going out of business, of these other brands that we go to theaters, like the theater experience going away. I respect that, and I respect that the push to get movies out in theaters and keep those theaters afloat is, in this case, worth the cost of driving people into a circumstance in which they might unsafely be watching these movies. But what Nolan did that I deeply disagree with is, in the release strategy, in places like California where theaters are closed, but you can go to a drive-in, he will not allow the movie to be shown in drive-ins in markets where theaters aren't open. So you can go to a drive-in in Connecticut because theaters are open in Connecticut. You cannot see Tenet in a drive-in in California or New York where theaters are not open. And I find that to be a very arbitrary distinction, and one that, like, I deeply disagree with, because if theaters were open in California, I would not feel comfortable going to see it in a theater, but I would potentially go see it in a drive-in. So they are limiting the amount of money that they could potentially make, because I think the thinking is that it's like, well, we want to support places where theaters are open. I love Nolan, and I've never been less interested in seeing a Nolan movie because of this. And like, I'll see it when it comes out, I guess, but I feel no urgency to see it in this way, in the way that, like, I would be much more likely. I did see Mulan when it came out because it was made available digitally, but it really bothers me if you couldn't tell. And I will say Bob is the best. If you guys are not familiar with Bob, he's our head of social. I am the worst boss ever, because Bob was like, I'm taking Friday off, and my girlfriend and I are driving to Connecticut, and we're going to go rent a theater and see Tenet in the only safe way we possibly can, because we're curious. And I said, great, on your day off, please also write an article about this on IGN, because it's very interesting and a unique perspective. So I hope that everyone enjoys that it did exist in a monster who made him.
Do check out that
write
piece.
it on his day off.
It is a good piece. Gosh, I didn't know that, and that bothers me too. But as someone
why?
who used to go to the movies every single weekend, I'm just
So-
very afraid.
So
of theaters
Nolan
going on.
values corporations more than people, basically, is what he's saying there. We need AMC and Regal and what have you to survive, even though we're encouraging people to risk their health to go in and see these movies. I mean, that's patently absurd on his part. And if he could kindly remove the stick from his rectum that he's walking around with, that would be great.
You know, he is British. I believe he still lives in the UK. Obviously, things are a bit different there. Things are still really bad around the coronavirus in the United States. But there was a choice to release this movie here in this way, regardless. And you know, obviously, he's an auteur. He is a rare auteur for a company like Warner Brothers that can make new movies and still get butts and seats based on his power of a name value with audiences alone. But God, like the fact that the Batman shut down because Robert Pattinson got COVID the same time that like Warner Brothers is saying go to theaters to see Tenet and only theaters to see Tenet. Like there are rumors right now that Wonder Woman 1984 is going to get delayed again because that was their next big release, and it's just like Tenet has made money, but the amount of money it makes in its second weekend is going to be the real testament, like how much of a drop off there is with audience and box office intake, and whether it's even worth it financially for a studio to risk releasing a big movie like this in a time where they might not recoup the amount, even for the sake of keeping theaters alive. There's a lot to be thought about, but Tenet in particular annoys me.
The Dark Knight's my favorite movie of all time, but boy, I just could not disagree with Mr. Nolan more on this one.
Yeah, I think that says it all. Like, if such a huge fan is not going to go, then real life circumstances have obviously superseded the importance of any given movie at this point. Well said all around. I envied our commenter. Oh, sorry.
No,
I just
it's
want
fine.
to shout out this comment. Drink more Patron. I don't want to shout out that part, but I was forced to.
I mean, cheers, I guess.
Never heard of this movie outside of IGN. That's just astounding to me. But anyway, Casey, what were you going to say?
I was just going to ask Ryan if say everything else was normal about 2020 and we weren't in a pandemic, but for some reason you couldn't see Tenet in California, would you drive out of state to go see it?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, no, I don't even think I would. Like, I love Batman Begins, and I was super hyped for The Dark Knight, and then it ended up being my favorite movie ever over the years. There's literally no movie I would drive across state line. I mean, if I lived right near a state line, sure, but I don't. I'm on the coast, so it would be hours. I'm not doing that. Why would I do that for a movie?
You're a big fan. I don't know.
Well, a movie that is almost certainly going to come to streaming. I just saw this going very big on Twitter this morning, and the trailer was delightful, so I wanted to at least bring it up. Did anyone see the trailer for Freaky?
Yes, and it's delightful. You were right.
Terry, can you give us Freaky in a nutshell?
Yes, and it's got the perfect pitch line for it. From the director of Happy Death Day, Freaky Friday meets Friday the 13th. Like that's the pitch with Vince Vaughn and Catherine Newton. I'm so excited about this. Like it checks all the boxes.
On Friday the 13th. Freaky Friday.
November the Friday the 13th. Yes, but I'm so excited about it. I think it looks really charming. Have you guys all seen Happy Death Day?
I loved Happy Death Day.
No.
I did not think it was going to be good. It was just one of those, like, I guess I'll watch this on an airplane type of movie. And then I really, really liked it.
So,
I think what is always notable about this director's films, I gotta say their name because that would be Christopher Landon.
Chris Landon, yeah.
Chris Landon, who actually has a storied horror career, but most recently it's The Happy Death Day and Freaky. The premises are so crisp and sharp. It reminds me of the old Hollywood stories of Shane Black, like writing a premise for a movie on a napkin and handing it to someone, and they're like, of course, here's the money. You envy premises like this. Like, of course this sold. What an amazing idea. Freaky Friday, but a horror movie with Vince Vaughn as the killer / young cheerleader lady. It's delightful.
Well, I love Catherine Langford too. I think I'm totally misstating what her last name is, but she was in Detective Pikachu. She was in Blockers. Like I find her very charming and delightful, and I think that she will be like the perfect foil for Vince Vaughn in this, and for each of them to be able to play each other.
Catherine Newton.
Catherine Newton. I was like,
Yeah,
Catherine
so
Langford
she gets
is the 13 Reasons Why girl
the
slash
proper shout out.
person
See,
cut
Terry, you have
from.
so much entertainment in your brain, you just
I
can't.
just get it wrong.
Yeah. No, who can blame you? It's a big cloud of entertainment.
Yeah, I think one thing that I will say, I know that we're going a little long, but one thing that I think is interesting about this is like it's not typical that a big studio movie like this is a Universal movie gets announced about 2 months before its release. Usually a trailer like this would come out sooner than later. Obviously, a lot of uncertain things going on this year that kind of have changed the marketing cycles of movies, but it reminds me a little bit of a lot of things on the game side as well, where we're seeing these really quick announcement to release windows. It's kind of how Netflix handles things, actually, because there's like so many things to be distracted by that they want to like get your attention and then deliver on it soon. And I'm curious to see if like this kind of surprise movie announcement for smaller movies that aren't the tenants that Drink More Patron has not seen the marketing for over the past like year or so will follow. I think it's clever because I'm like, yes, what am I doing in 2 months? Well, I might as well see this movie when hopefully it comes to a drive-in or digital in some capacity.
I think Drink More Patron is traveling backward in time and has not hit where Tenet exists yet. Yeah. Last but certainly not least, Ryan posted a piece today that was largely a slideshow of, we got Xbox Series X and S. What's the proper term? Cases? Shells?
Dummies.
Whatever you want to say. Display units, dummies, shells.
Floor models.
They don't work. Out. There's nothing. There's no guts in here.
They're accurate models, correct? So
they're the real thing. They're the real cases. The real,
right.
Just not. There's nothing in them.
Full disclosure, I asked Ryan, I'm like, you're sick of talking about this, right? Just the size and shape. And he was like, yeah. But I wanted, since you had them on you, I thought we'd show them off. If anyone in chat has questions or wants to see them side by side, I don't know what else you're going to do with them.
Here's the really bad B-roll I shot on my phone this morning because I'm the only one with these and I am super bad at video. I thought the iPhone was supposed to like steady things automatically, but no. Either that or I'm in worse shape than I thought.
What kind of iPhone do you have?
The 10. I'm a few years old now.
What does it have engraved on the bottom of the X there?
That's one of the cool little touches. I mean, you're not going to see it in the the stream, but you can see on the bottom of this. By the way, I got asked a lot. This base stand, which has this rubber ring around the edge it'll grip on a surface, but. So this is not removable, but the console's still designed. If you do want to lay it down, see there's 4 feet on this side, so it can lay down like that. It'll have the disk drive on top, and obviously that vertical round base isn't it's smaller than the unit itself, so it's not like it's still going to lay flat. Anyway, on that it says Xbox on one side, and then, as Microsoft has done on a lot of their more recent Xbox products, somewhere really small, hello from Seattle, which of course is although the irony is Microsoft's in Redmond, not Seattle, but anyway, so that's pretty cool. I've been asked a lot about the sort of material, the fit and finish. It feels and looks, it seems to be exactly the same plastic that the Xbox One X is and the One S. So another thing I really like is I whack myself in the face with it, my giant nose, but it might be easier to show this on the white one, actually on the S, which, by the way, so this thing, it is small. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Because I've been covering Xbox for 18 years now, and every single Xbox that's ever existed. And, they're not lying when they say this is the smallest Xbox. Like, it's not even close. It's still reasonably thick if you're laying it down horizontally like this. Although, again, there are feet on the one side there. So if you do want to stand it up, it's off camera now, but you can totally stand it up. But anyway, so a thing I super like for accessibility and also just if you're trying to fumble cables around the back of it in the dark. So whatever sort of the use case is, there are unique nubs basically for each port. So it's 1. If you feel 1, okay, that's the power. 2 is the Ethernet. Then if you feel 3, There's 3 each. So those are the 2 rear USB ports, and then the HDMI is just it's not a dot. It's like a more dashed line, and then 4 for the expansion slot. Should you decide at some point to upgrade the storage capacity and buy the 1 terabyte memory card, because this thing's only got 512, not literally this because it's fake, but 512 gigs of hard drive in the Series S versus 1 terabyte in the X. But yeah, these are I'm really impressed by the physical console itself. Like, it's, again, the Series S here. I know there's this design element here, the choice of the second color on this vent has been a subject of a lot of debate online and a lot of photoshops as well. But I think if you kind of look at it, like, if it were just white, the whole thing would be really plain and boring. Like, I do agree with the choice to pop a second color. I know I've seen lots of clever ideas, like maybe they could have done the Xbox like X logo in white, or maybe they'll do some of that kind of thing with special editions. But yeah, the Series S, really small, very impressive. And then a lot of people, the picture I posted, there's a gallery on IGN, but a lot of people seem to think, based on the picture of me holding the 2 of them that we posted on Twitter, that the X is huge. Like, man, the X looks huge. I really don't think it is. I mean, if you
Ryan, it looks huge next to you. It looks huge next to you, just holding it up right now.
I mean, it's not small. It's not small, but like, I don't know. I guess it's a matter of perspective, and everybody's got sort of a different definition on what that is. But it's the same height. Like, if you stand it vertically, which seems to be its primary way that it's designed to be, it's the same height as an Xbox One X if you stand that up. And then obviously it's shorter, but of course it's a square, it's a cube. Right. So but yeah, like, for what's in this thing, it's not like I can hold it with one hand, no problem. And the PS5 appears to be, we don't know for sure yet, but from the pictures, it seems like the PS5 is going to be a good bit bigger than this. And of course, if it's quiet and it stays cool, who cares? It doesn't matter what size it is. You just want it to work and be quiet while it's doing its job. But yeah, it was kind of neat to have these display units just to get a sense of what they're like next to both other Xbox consoles of the past and other PlayStations, and even there's a picture up there with the Switch as well.
This may be a very vanilla take, but seeing it against everything else, like, it looks more like a small PC tower than a big console.
Sure.
Like, that for sure is what they were going for.
Yeah, no, you're far from the only person to say that, and I completely agree. Like, it's definitely got that sort of mini PC look to it.
So Ryan,
I was surprised that we have, sorry, Casey, to cut you off, but we have a poll that's up on the IGN homepage, and the question is, now that we know a little bit more about pricing on next-gen consoles, which do you think you're most likely to buy? And I was surprised, 21,000 people voted, and only 6% of the people said Series S. Like, that's about 1/5 of the people who voted for Series X. And that surprises me. I guess it's because, I don't know, Ryan, you're more the expert than I am, but like, is it because when you go to Xbox, you want the best and highest quality hardware within it, and that's why?
I think it's because the people that come to IGN are hardcore gamers, and they're much more likely to go for the higher end system. I think the S will do just fine in the marketplace, but yeah, I think the people voting in an IGN.com poll and watching a show like this with us right now are hardcore gamers that are going to want the top end version.
The S is not for us, unless we get the S and the X for work reasons.
Yeah.
For work reasons.
Yeah.
Exactly.
2 quick questions, Ryan. One, is the green on the model, how is the green on the top coming through? Is that paint, a light, a piece underneath? What is that?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's another one. I mean, Microsoft had clarified this previously, because I was one of the people, I thought it was a light on the inside as well when they first revealed it, but no, it is an optical illusion. And you can see a little bit of it there. Of course, I've got a green light in the room here, which doesn't help.
Inside
but
the little circles.
It's green on like the about what, a centimeter maybe down, maybe a couple millimeters, whatever it is. I'm bad at the metric system.
Oh, there we go.
The ventilation
B-roll
holes
shows it
are
off.
black. Yeah, you can kind of see it there. So the holes start black, but then they're green down near the bottom of them, and it does kind of make, at certain angles, an optical illusion, particularly with the concave nature of this top part, which is just another part of the optical illusion. So it sort of tricks your eye into making it look like it's glowing green.
That's kind of cool. And then what do you do with something like that? Not the Series S or X, the models. How long are you going to hold on to those? Be honest.
Microsoft wants them back by, I forget, like
good.
sometime in the next week or so. So yeah, I'm going to send them back, which is well and good, because what am I going to do with them? I'd like a real one. I don't need a fake one. So it was nice to have for a little while, but they'll be going back to Microsoft.
So
Like your
Ryan,
Series X vendors.
I have a question from chat that you probably have not gotten yet. This is from the ghost of Park Ji-sung, and they ask, which are you sleeping next to, Ryan?
That's a good question. I mean, the X would be more like a good footrest to kind of prop my feet up on, where I guess the S would probably make a better pillow if I were to lay my head next to that. So
Good evaluation.
I guess I'll go that way.
Turn the
I have to
fan
shout
on,
out
get a breeze.
the Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
The Xbox Twitter account has had the best, like, for all that it was a crummy start of the week for them, they've had like the best week ever with just the most perfect chef's kiss of tweets. And one that they did interacting with the Oreos account was someone, like, Oreos retweeted a meme of like the Series S with an Oreo instead of the vent unit.
Yeah.
And the Xbox account just responded with 2 X's with the Series S in between it, like an Oreo.
Nice.
And I just can't unsee it when you're holding them. Like, I can't unsee the Oreo, and that's going to be a permanent issue.
Oh, that's really
They've had a
good.
very, very funny week on Xbox official Twitter account.
Yeah,
Shout out to them.
unless they've already released them. I know Max and Brian are busily working on potentially dozens of various iterations of the Series S design, which is a perfect segue to mentioning that there is an Up at Noon today featuring Max Scoville and Brian Altano, the 2 aforementioned co-hosts. And they will be discussing, I believe, everything that they enjoyed about Ubisoft Forward. Let me check and make sure that's true. That's true, specifically Far Cry and other shenanigans, I'm sure. That is right here at 5 o'clock, which is in about 4 minutes, so we better get going. But this was, hey, we filled the hour. What a delight. Time flies when you're having fun. And Ryan, I got to say, you crushed that describing boxes segment. Who knew it could be so interesting?
I think I talked for way too long, but,
like, these
I guess
are
that's what they pay me
boxes. Thank you so much to Terry, Casey, and Ryan. We will see you tomorrow, same place, same time, for another News, Games, and More. So long.
Bye-bye.